Welcome to the 2021 year-end awards for Mainly Wrestling. I'm Jack Milner, joined again by Lissy, Almeida and John Jacobs. Lissy, I'll let you start off because you have assigned the categories for the prestigious awards this year. Let us know what we're in for the next 45 minutes to an hour.
Lovely, thanks. First, Happy New Year. Is it too late in the year to be saying that? I think there's that buffer where you have to stop it. Okay, I've done too much already.
It's the first time. It's the first time we're seeing each other. You're allowed.
All right, cool. So for our awards, we're going to do male and female for each of the following categories. So Wrestler of the Year, Rookie of the Year, Tag Team, Match of the Year, Most Underrated, and Most Improved. Did I miss anything,
Will
JJ?
you have, before we enter it, do you have strong opinions on the categories? Because I mean, there's I'd say two or three I am firmly this is the right answer. Or this should be. Are you? But you're not normally a man that gets wound up by stuff like this.
I struggled with some of them, especially like we've gone for a man and a woman for each one, and like women's tag teams. Looking now at what I've written down, like it's not the best, but it's not their fault because AEW don't have a women's tag division yet. They obviously do have a few tag teams, and WWE just sort of forgot that existed, right? They just throw people together when they need a match or something. So some of them were a struggle, some of them were really easy. Like we'll get to them as we go. What was easy and what was tough, but I think for like Wrestler of the Year, especially on the male side, I don't even think that's a debate.
Stop it. I mean, if you choose Roman Reigns, I'll throw you off this podcast straight away. Sorry. No, WWE fans don't wish this. What we're talking about.
Maybe I'll surprise you.
I mean, that's very true. Life is full of surprises. All right, then, Lissy, on that tone, give us your top 5 Wrestler of the Year, male and female.
5.
Top one, Jack. Come on.
The top 1.
5.
That's why I was struggling. All right, I've got 3 for each. There you go.
Are you all right?
Amazing.
Top 5? Jeez.
Do you know how long it would take to do top 5 male and women for 6 different categories?
That's why I was saying. I thought. Okay.
For hours.
Do you read the chat at all?
No. I have not slept in 4 weeks now, and I am juggling a lot of things. So.
Don't use that because you didn't read the chat before then either.
This is absolute madness.
All right, well, I'm making a lot of Ric Flair memes. Put it that way.
Okay, he gets a pass, JJ. He gets a pass. So I think we should say Wrestler of the Year for last. I think let's start with Most Improved. How about that? Okay. So under Most Improved, I was literally going through this, and I actually had to like call up my best friend and be like, "What are you thinking?" And like I pulled a few people just to kind of. You're
taking this really seriously. Well, okay.
I take this extremely seriously. Okay. However. And in my head, I'm like, what's JJ going to say? But JJ, sometimes he's so unpredictable. So I had to like let that go and just kind of go my own way. So I'm actually going to say for most.
Sorry.
It's happening. So I have a tie for Most Improved. For me, Jurassic Express is number 1. Second, honorary mention, Damian Priest, and not because he was doing poorly before, but I think this was just like a very big year for him. He had big storyline with Bad Bunny at WrestleMania. His call up to the main roster. He's he's a United States champion now, so I feel like this was like a big year for him. Where he was this time last year versus this year is night and day. And then of course Jurassic Express. You guys know I love. Jack Perry. So I think that him and Luchasaurus are, catapulting to the front of the line, and we know what's happened recently. They just had a really big win. So I think those 2 tied for me. And then on the ladies' side, I think this is an easy one. Liv Morgan, she had a really big year. Wow, you look surprised, JJ.
I'm surprised. I've seen her work. I don't think she's very good.
I said she's Most Improved.
Okay. How bad was she last year?
The best. Said she's improved. Relax. Go ahead. Mr. Jacobs, go ahead.
Is JJ the most improved podcaster in 2021?
Oh, shut
up. For Most Improved, for male side, I've gone for Hangman Adam Page. I think this could be a controversial one because, you can say, okay, he was already awesome at the start of 2021. but he has gone from, I mean, we always knew it was happening, but he's followed that trajectory to being, you know, around the top tier, sort of top of the mid-card kind of guy, to world champion. And he's ended the year and started 2022 with two of the best matches that, you know, that we've seen. And he's shown how much he can do from that 60-minute time limit draw. Obviously, it's with Bryan Danielson, which is, you know, he could wrestle a broomstick, right? But, you know, you still got to go 60 minutes. That's a lot, you know, to do to keep the fans engaged, to keep them entertained. And it wasn't just Bryan that did that. It was Hangman as well. And he's followed the trajectory that we expected him to. But from where he was at the start of 2021 to world champion of AEW, putting on 60-minute time limit draws that kept us all hooked. Yeah, for me, he's most improved wrestler of the year. You said Liv Morgan on the women's side. I can't disagree with that, just because I haven't watched enough of the women's wrestling in the last sort of 6 months on WWE. For me, this is another one that I struggled with, because there's a lot of women, you know, Britt Baker has obviously like dominated the women's side of that. You've got the TBS title, which, you know, I don't think you could say Ruby Soho or Jade have been most improved. Their sort of match to end that wasn't the best for me. I still think there's a lot of work to go there. I went for Red Velvet, which is a bit of a random one, but like, she's come in, she's pretty new, but every time that she's been given a spot, given a match on TV, and even like a few of the stuff that I've seen on Dark and things like that, I always just think she looks incredible. She's obviously still pretty new, but I think that she's definitely one for the future that we'll be keeping an eye on. Just like the fire that she brings to her matches, this like underdog kind of wrestler that wrestles from underneath. I think I'm really impressed by her every time I see her. So I put her down as my most improved.
I like that too. Shout out to Red Velvet. She's South Florida girl.
Straight out your mama's kitchen, right? Well, mine kind of coincide that. So my most improved would be Jungle Boy. I think. I know you said Jurassic Express. Jungle Boy he will be a world champion for the company. He is a star. His selling's improved dramatically. He had a great match with Dax Howard, I think, around this time last year, and it really brought him to the fore. I think he beat Dax as well, which is a big feather in his cap. And I'd also say, you know, he's not been mentioned yet. MJF has come on leaps and bounds. And if you think,
I had a hard time. I'm with you, but he's just, I feel like MJF, he's just so good. You guys know I always speak so highly of him. I just love his character. And I think this year, was this like a year that brought him to a new level, so to speak? Probably. I think so. No, I mean, once he got rid of the three of us have been pretty collective in our thoughts on Jericho the last 12, 18 months. Complete waste of time. Once he got that out of the way, I don't think MJF beating Jericho. I know, did he beat him 3 times and Jericho won 1? I think that did nothing for him. You know, 2 years ago, that would have been a big deal. MJF going toe-to-toe with CM Punk in the middle of a ring puts him on a different level. Yeah, that's what I see.
And the fact he went bar for bar and probably just trumped Punky Brewster at a couple of those levels. Yeah, I think MJF going into this year as well, where they'll be able to, he's going to call it one of the bidding war for 2024. It's going to get a lot of easy heat with the AEW fans. I wouldn't be surprised if he kind of moved up a notch there. And on the women's side, I think Shida would probably get my nomination as over the 2 honourable mentions would be Ty Conti and Jamie Hayter. Jamie's always been a very good wrestler, but her character work with Britt is kind of, you know, things like little subtle looks at the camera, and you get she's learning episodic television kind of week by week. But Shida, the matches she had with Serena Deeb last year were better than anything she did in her title run. And I mean, it wasn't helped the fact there were no crowds. But you mentioned earlier, JJ, about babyface fire, say with Red Velvet. Shida, and it helps that, again, she's got against Serena Deeb, who's a brilliant foil, because she's a brilliant technician and she can control the match. But I've been really impressed by Shida the last few months, and I'm looking forward to the rubber match with Deeb.
I certainly see your point in terms of like her in-ring abilities have come on a lot in the last 4 months. But if you look at where she started the year and where she ended the year, like she was women's world champion at the start of the year, and now she's
in my head I'm putting it as like all well-rounded performers So, like Jungle Boy, for example, like last year, has he really improved in terms of like his moveset or his in-ring work from 12 months' time?
On the mic, he has massively.
He's improved. He can got a promo, but his
Chris
selling and the pacing of his matches is so. And again, working with like the Bucks and FTR is going to help. And that's why Hangman Page is on Robert mention, because his selling in the matches with Danielson was phenomenal. And again, a babyface has to be in jeopardy. He has to have worries over him. There has to be an anxiety amongst the crowd to get them on your side. And the likes of Shida, Jungle Boy, and Hangman Page, to a lesser extent, all have that, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, fair answers.
Thank you very much. And on to the next one. I'll let you lead off again, Lissy. Rookie of the Year. This is wrestlers who debuted on mainstream television within the previous 12 months. So who debuted for you in 2021 and you went, wow?
So I'm going to flip. I'll start with the women's side. Rookie of the Year for me on the, if anybody says anything else, I'm going to punch you. Jade Cargill for me on the women's side.
Was it? That's not the year before though.
Yeah, but I
had the Shaq match on December.
I count this is her rookie year. Come on, let's okay, tomato. This is her rookie year. She's undefeated. I feel
like FTR saying you're not holding the tag, bro. What's going on here? Listen, play by the rules.
Come on, you can bend the rules when you make the rules. Come on.
Yeah, for me, I agree with Jade.
Yeah, so Jade Cargill for me, obviously she just won the TBS championship. We see where her career is going. She's still super green in a lot of elements, but I definitely see that, she had a super solid year. She is, if she continues on this path, she is the future of the women's division in AEW. So that's all.
No. She's the future of the women's division in WWE.
Period.
Well, what's that? 12 minutes for a period. Do you not think? I look at Jade, the same with like a powerhouse Hobbs. I think, God, they need to go to WWE and make a lot of money.
Oh yeah. I totally see her there.
Like imagine Bruce Pritchard and Vince get their eyes on Jade. God, pal, look at her. Strap her up. On the men's side.
On the men's side, Carmelo Hayes is my pick. He had a really great year in NXT.
Oh boy.
Go to hell. He had a really great year at NXT, NXT North American champ, and he most recently consolidated that with the Cruiserweight championship. He beat Roderick Strong a couple weeks ago. So he is definitely my pick, and I really think he's next up.
Excellent. JJ, I'm guessing you, at least as opposed to me, actually know Carmelo Hayes. Does he make your shortlist?
He doesn't know. I went for Dante Martin. He made his TV debut as a single star.
I love
Miro. He came in as a tag team at the end of the year before, at the end of 2020. Mm-hmm. But obviously he's had his singles matches. I think his first match was actually the TNT title match against Miro as a singles competitor. I could be wrong. In terms
I think you're right. Before then, he wrestled with his brother just exclusively as top line.
Yeah, and like he might have done some stuff on Dark, but in terms of on TV, yeah, that was his first one. I just think every time that he's in the ring, not necessarily so much backstage, but every time he's in the ring, he just blows out of the water. The stuff he does in that ring is incredible. There's no one else that does it, even in this era where high flying wrestling is, everything, and the Bucks do some crazy things, and the Lucha Brothers do crazy things. There's so many incredible high flyers like Leo Rush, people like this, but stuff that Dante does, you just don't see it anywhere else. So he for me goes in. And as well, just to say, like, he didn't sign expecting to be, a singles wrestler being in title matches and things like this, but he's taken his opportunity. Having a match against someone like Miro, he should have just been destroyed. Shouldn't really have shown very much, but he's shown a lot, and he's just rolled with the punches, even though his brother's out injured. Been involved in storylines and just had some brilliant matches. So he for me goes in as Rookie of the Year. On the women's side, obviously I read the rules, so I knew that we couldn't go with Jade Cargill. I went with Piper Niven, even though I don't want to say her other name, but even though she was given a stupid name, even though she was given a stupid gimmick, coming in, she was with in spite of all of this, she still managed to say at the top of the card, not quite challenging for the titles yet, but I think that will be down the road for her within the next year or two. And you know, she's not your prototypical WWE female wrestler. We know that, but every time she's in the ring, she does impressive things. She has good matches against the people, a variety of people, and someone like Nia Jax is the kind of person that you could compare her to, who just sort of gets put in these spots because of her size. But you can tell that Piper's been doing this for a long time in the Indies in the UK, and I think that comes through. So she, for me, goes in as Rookie of the Year on the women's side.
On that note, JJ, you mentioned that she's got a different look, you say. Do you think a woman with her look will ever be made women's champion?
Yeah, of course. Okay.
I don't see. I think I've watched her, and I think she's a good, very good wrestler. I just don't. It's weird. The more I watch WWE, you think there seems to be such a glass ceiling. Like, but in the last 12 months, who's broke through apart from Bianca Belair?
Yeah, I mean, Rhea Ripley, they botched, didn't they? So
I watched that really weird heel turn on Monday, and it's weird to me you have a tough badass like Rhea Ripley. You want to get sympathy, surely, on the superhero. Have her beat the shit out of each other.
Yeah.
Weird. I mean, I can't disagree with pretty much everything you two have just said. Jade, we can bend them a little bit. Jade's really been on TV for about 14 months. She is a big year for her on TBS. I presume she's going to get a big push throughout the network. As you know, don't like that bitch. What's it? That bitch show.
Yeah,
we can work on a better acronym than that. But in terms of the rookie, I'd love to vote Hook because he's good lord, he's a good-looking boy. And
okay, but this is the problem with putting Hook, and I love Hook. You guys know I love him. I think he's going to be huge. However, today, man has only wrestled like 3 times. So yeah, so if you're going to say who had like the best debut, I'll probably say Hook. I think but for Rookie of the Year, the year, I don't think it's
agreed.
However, that was in my head. That was Howard Finkel, winner of this match. However, and still, DQ finish. He was the #1 best-selling tee on Pro Wrestling Tees. 2 weeks of the year. 2 weeks for a guy who's had 3 matches. He's over more than any rookie in a long, long time.
Absolutely. I completely and wholeheartedly agree with you, my friend.
I do vote the Steiner boy, Bron Breakker, because he looks like a Steiner. He talks like a Steiner. He wrestles like a Steiner, but he's called Bron Breakker. But it's a big year for him. And I think Vince has, money eyes when he looks at him. But honorable mentions for Dante and Hook. Mark Henry was glowing, waxing lyrical about Dante, saying he does things that he hasn't seen since a young Rey Mysterio. So when you're in that bracket, there's no higher praise. Tag teams, Lissy, you're a big fan of tag team wrestling. Lead the way, please.
I had a hard time with this one, actually.
Hard time, Daddy.
No build up here. I think the Lucha Bros had a huge year. I absolutely love them. I love seeing them as the champions. So for me, it was them. Obviously, honorable mentions. Okay, we can put the Young Bucks in there. I know that's who you want. I see JJ's face. FTR, I love, but I don't think that this was their best year. I know there were some injuries and things like that, but I think they ended the year really strong. But for me, overall, it was Lucha Bros. I think let's talk about the men first, and then we'll come back to the women.
I mean, in terms of the women's tag team, I'm abstaining from voting on this situation because I don't have enough knowledge.
Good. JJ and I will.
I'll leave it to JJ. JJ, I mean, how would you quantify or qualify tag team of the year? What are they in terms of what the best performing, the most successful, the most consistent? How would you vote for each? Can I answer this?
I
was asking the lady.
Go for it.
I would categorize 2 things. I think the things that matter the most to me, and you guys know, one thing about me, I love tag team wrestling.
You do?
They had to be together the whole year. That's number one. Okay. But number two, I hate when I see two really, really, really good singles wrestlers that should be getting an individual push or whatever, and they're thrown together for the sake of having a tag team.
You're throwing shade at Raw right now.
Huh?
You're throwing shade at Raw right now.
I am not at all. Not at all. Because, okay, like, for example, like, you guys know Randy Orton's my favorite wrestler. I absolutely love him.
Randy Orton's your favorite wrestler?
He is my favorite wrestler. Come on. I've said this 100 times. So
Randy Orton? What?
Yeah, for like the last 15, 17 years, he's my favorite wrestler. Come on. So I just, like, he had a great year with Riddle. I actually think they made something of it and they're hilarious together. And they're both two extremely talented, you know, individual or singles wrestlers rather. But I, like, for example, like when I was trying to think of a women's one, I was having a hard time. And I know we talked about this yesterday where you guys are like, who are the women's tag teams? It is hard. And I think, you know, it's worth talking about where, like, for example, earlier this year, like, we had Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke together, and I thought that they were actually building some momentum and starting to gel really well together. And they, you know, they were separated. Mandy's down in the NXT now, and she's, you know, on a great path for herself. And then Dana Brooke is now the 24/7 champion doing her thing. But I like to see more actual, like, women's tag teams that are put together, like, but actually come together more organically or come in as a tag team. And then we had like Natalya and Tamina that, you know, they were women's champions for a good part of the year, and they did start to gel better together and things like that. You have Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, which is actually kind of like a motley crew, but it did start to work because they're both like two, you know, badass competitors. But I don't feel like there were a lot of like actual tag teams. And I know in AEW, they don't really have like a super strong women's tag team division yet either. I mean, of course, we can go to Impact and we can, you know, look other places too.
No, it's Impact, yeah.
No one really comes to mind, and it's really sad and unfortunate. And as a woman who loves tag team wrestling, you know, it's disappointing for me.
No, I think that's fair. I think if I think of who's women's tag team, I think the Iconics, or as you said, Inspiration. TJ have been all right. They came together quite naturally. They're kind of best friends. Yeah. But apart from that, there used to be a time up until like 97. I would know pretty much every title lineage in the history. I couldn't tell you who the women's tag team champions are in WWE. I couldn't tell you who's been in for the past year, and they've kind of been so watered down in terms of.
Well, it's currently Queen Zelina and.
The one who does the Australian voice.
Queen Zelina and Carmella. But
hello,
again,
everyone.
They've just been tag for a short amount of time, so it is what it is. JJ, what do you think?
For the men's side or the women's side?
Both.
Well, women's side. You can chime in on the women. I think I've beat it to death, but if you want to.
So yeah, I suppose with like obviously the Iconics did some stuff in WWE, didn't do anything really of note before getting fired, getting split up and then getting fired, which was just a stupid decision. And then they've gone into Impact and won the tag titles there. I saw a little bit of the stuff that Jordan Grace and Rachel Ellering did in Impact as well. Like their whole kind of storyline was really fun, and I think Jordan Grace is just like an incredible in-ring athlete.
Thicker than a snicker. Is that right?
Thicker than a snicker. Obviously, also married to like Jonathan Gresham, ROH World Champion, who is also one of the best in the ring that you'll see. That's not on AEW, WWE. So. Those two together, I'm sure they learn a lot of each other and do some wrestling at home, you know, to practice, you know, wrestle around on the floor, all that kind of fun stuff. You understand what I'm saying? So I really like them, but I mean, I don't know who else to say really. I enjoyed the stuff with Rhea Ripley and Nikki Ash. They're both people who I enjoy as singles competitors. They did some okay stuff as a tag team, but yeah, beyond those that I've mentioned, I can't really think of anyone that stands out. And then on the men's side, I can understand why you would say Lucha Brothers. Obviously, like, have had some incredible matches, but I just don't think that you can look past Chad Gable and Otis. Joking. I don't think that you can look past the Young Bucks. Like, they've had all, like...
You were waiting for the bite then as well.
You guys know I love Chad Gable.
Say you love Chad Gable without saying it.
No, they're tag champs now. Maybe when it comes to next year, we'll be saying that they're the best tag team of 2022. But no, I think it's Young Bucks for me. Like they were together for the whole year, which ticks off Lissy's criteria. They were influencing stuff at the top of the card. They could do it as faces, they could do it as heels. They showed all of that last year. The storyline that they impacted, right at the top in terms of the World Championship, the stuff with Don Callis, and they also put on incredible matches when called upon themselves, whether it's that cage match against Lucha Brothers, the matches that they had against Jurassic Express. Like every time they're in the ring, they're just incredible. Everything that you can say about the Young Bucks has been said, but I think if you were going to say, who was the most improved tag team out of the two of those, you'd go with Lucha Brothers, but I just don't think you can look past the Young Bucks for everything that they've done, both in the tag division and in the singles division, and just, everywhere on the card in AEW. And obviously when you're looking at tag teams, as we've already covered, AEW are doing it far better than WWE right now, as they are most things.
I find it difficult. I mean, it's all subjective to. I don't really like. I think Lucha Brothers are the phenomenal wrestlers. I don't get the emotional investment by that style of match. So the same with the Young Bucks stuff. It doesn't really hit for me. FTR's obviously Michael the TMA. That's why, because I like 80s NWA. But are you surprised? I suppose disappointment is the wrong word, but Santana and Ortiz have been used sparingly this year. Do you think we'll see more of next year? Because they seem to be. Again, I was looking back at 2021 and then realizing that, oh yeah, the Pinnacle had a big feud with the Inner Circle. Like, wow, that was like last March, April. Like, wow, why hasn't Santana Ortiz been in the tag title picture?
I get the feeling that
when they started, it was under the Young Bucks, wasn't it? They were the big feud at the start.
I get the feeling that we're going to see some really exciting matches just based on all these tag teams coming out onto the ramp when Jurassic Express won the title last week. Santana Ortiz were there, and 2.0 and Malachi Black and whoever might join the House of Black, which we think we probably know, but it's not happened yet. There's so many different kinds of matches. There's so many decent tag teams in that division, even ones that we don't really see very much or know too much about yet. So I think we're going to see some very, very different. It's sort of felt like it's been centered around 3, maybe 4 tag teams of FTR, Jurassic Express, Luchas, and the Young Bucks. Obviously, like those 4 have kind of dominated that division this year. But I think we're going to see a lot more at the top of the tag card this year in AEW.
Well, you kind of blending that into the next topic. Then we'll save the 2 biggies for the end. But who would be your most underrated? Because I know for me, I'd probably have Santana and Ortiz collectively as one of the honorable mentions in there.
Okie dokes. Most underrated for me was our boy Dante Martin, actually. I think he had, I struggled with him in rookie or underrated, but I think underrated just because, like you guys said, like we were previously looking at him as a tag team wrestler, and then obviously he's super talented. He's so good in the ring. I think that because he's really young, right? We know this. He's extremely young. He's very early in his career. You see a little bit of that he's still kind of contained within himself. I think I'm just talking purely like in-ring ability. I would love to see him develop more and be able to do some, better work on the mic and things like that. But I think that comes with time too. But I love him. I think he's extremely talented and I really think he's going places. So I want to see a lot more from him. I'm saying this like it's a performance review. I want to see a lot more from him this year and beyond.
And on the women's side?
Women's side. Probably a very random choice for me, but I think you guys expect that on my end. So I really love La Rosa Negra. I think she's really, really amazing. I've seen her live, like she wrestles a lot down here in South Florida, but she's recently debuted for AEW, and I think I would love to see her go up against Jade. I think that they would have amazing matches. They're both, she's really, really seasoned, and I think she could put on a clinic with Jade and give her a run for her money for the TBS belt at the very least.
At the very least, yeah, absolutely. Well deserved. JJ?
Keep Googling Jack.
Say again?
I said, keep Googling Jack.
So
I see him going to work over there.
for most underrated men's wrestler, I did genuinely choose Chad Gable. I just think in
You
terms of
think he's the best wrestler in the world? How could he be underrated?
Right. Okay. Well, I always think underrated is a difficult one because obviously, if I'm saying they're underrated, then I rate them very highly. But not necessarily. If you asked 100
He's
people,
a world champion right now. How can he be underrated?
He is now, but he never was in 2021. But anyway, look, if you sit through 3 hours of Raw every week, the highlight of that every time he's on the screen in terms of in ring is Chad Gable. Whether he gets 2 minutes or 20 minutes, like you're going to get an incredible match out of him. And it doesn't matter who he's up against, what he's given, what kind of bullshit, back crazy, weird storyline he's got going on. He is going to knock it out of the park. And that's why, like, for me, I think that goes for underrated wrestler of the year. And on the women's side, I went for Serena Deeb. She's not really been involved at like the second.
Exactly the same.
Yeah, like she's not really been involved. She's not really been involved in like at the top of the card in terms of titles and stuff. But again, like all the matches that she's had, I think have been incredible. I mean, I will reference one of them later, but and sort of go into a little bit more detail. But yeah, really impressed by her. And I think it was the sit-down promo that she had with JR. I don't know if that was the end of 2021 or right at the start of 2022, but just that fire that she brings as a heel. And yeah, just really impressed with everything that she's done when she has had opportunities so far this year. And hopefully we're going to see a lot more of her on AEW TV going into 2022. And I 100% think that, she could easily be a TBS title holder or even, the women's world title.
I'm hoping that TBS title will be a bit like the TV title from the 80s. And I see Serena just being like a double A type figure. And Anderson would go and wrestle 10 minutes pretty much every week on TV. And Serena Deeb can do that with anyone on the roster and make them look better almost by default. Again, the cliche of she'll wrestle a broom. She's that good. And you think now that she's finally getting a bit of a kudos. And the rub from a JR sit-down interview is kind of intangible, but she will come on leaps and bounds just for that. Serena, for me, I think I was impressed by Chris Statlander. Again, she came out from injury. She kind of was semi-pushed at the start, but the women's division when AEW started was complete shite anyway. So, she had to improve almost by default. And I do think Anna Conte and Anna Conte.
Yeah.
Anna Jay and Tia Conte. It's weird. The Tia Conte one, I've kind of gone off. Gone off sounds horrible. Just there's a bad taste in my mouth with the Sammy stuff. And that shouldn't be the case. I know it's very prejudiced. You look at judging on her ring work, she's really good, really, really good. But yeah, I can't disconnect the. It's like if a wrestler's got a really bad social game. Nyla Rose, actually, honorable mention. Her Twitter game is phenomenal, and she's been really good as well this year. But Serena's head and shoulders. She deserves more. And in the guys. See, I was kind of torn. I think Cesaro, whenever I've watched WWE, I love Claudio back from the Ring of Honor days. And I don't think I've ever seen him. I've never seen him do anything wrong, anything bad, anything that does not make sense.
Ever.
He's brilliant. Santana or Caesar, take time. But I came down to Pac, who isn't helped by the fact he goes missing, for weeks and months on end.
Yeah.
Just has got no momentum. But for me, the most underrated wrestler, that's what Dax Howard, who's phenomenal. He leads FTR. The match he had with Pac in November was brilliant. He had a great match with Jungle Boy at the start of the year. That really set him up as a single. And he carried Jericho to probably his best singles match of the year as well on Dynamite. So Dax Howard, great guy as well. Big Dax.
I love that little jab. Carried Jericho. Say you hate Jericho without saying it.
The man is turning into a human sandbag machine. Like, what can you say? Oh yeah! Woo!
I love your Chris Statlander shout. Agree with that massively, and I'm really looking forward to seeing her versus Layla Hirsch down the line. I did have Layla Hirsch written down as like underrated, but I just didn't think that she'd done enough on TV. But I think like every time I have seen her again, like I think she's awesome. A really unique look. Like she's absolutely tiny, but she's like stacked. And, really excited to see what those guys do down the line.
Yeah, big year for all of them. We'll go to the big tier. Then I'm going to throw in two curveballs at the end for for other small categories. Match of the year.
Why are you like this? Why are you like this?
That's how I am, baby. Match of the year, Lissy. Which
Match of
Bryan
the
Danielson
year.
match?
Okay, but why do you have to assume that it's going to be a Bryan Danielson match?
Because he had the best matches in the world in 2021.
Okay, so I can't disagree with you. I'm just trying to give you a hard time.
No arguments, just facts.
Honorable mention, before we get there, honorable mention, Edge and Rollins had an amazing match at Crown Jewel this year. So I'm just going to put that there. Jack, you don't have to agree. And JJ, I don't know. Let's see how we do.
It was. I really liked it. I thought it was a really, really good match. So
honorable mention. However, it's Kenny versus Bryan. I think that they really put on an amazing match. I don't think that anybody really came close to that this year. And you're welcome. It was a Bryan Danielson match. I've done my job today. I can go back to bed. And then on the women's side, I had a hard time with this, but it's also the same people, so I'm kind of happy about it. I think Sasha versus Bianca at WrestleMania was amazing. I was there. I saw it. A lot of emotion, but they rocked the house. And I love to see women main eventing any night of WrestleMania. That's number one. Close second, which I'm actually not even, it's like 1 and 1A. Becky, Sasha, and Bianca again in their triple threat at Crown Jewel. They rocked the house there too. So, and just to have women being able to wrestle in Saudi Arabia, if you remember the first couple shows that they did there, women weren't even allowed on the card. So I think it's momentous in many different ways. So those are my two picks on the women's side.
JJ?
Yeah, so for the women's side, I was close to going with Sasha versus Bianca, but it just got pipped for me by Dee versus Riho from the buy-in at Double or Nothing for the NWA World Women's title. Like, that was the first match that we've seen in a long, long time in front of crowds, and I think they had sort of a tough time to actually get the crowd invested in the storyline, which hadn't been on TV. But and like when Serena came out as well, like she almost got a face pop. But within like the 20-25 minutes that this match was on, might have been a bit shorter than that, I don't know. But in the time that match was on, like Deeb had managed to turn the crowd around to actually supporting Riho like they wanted. She got
huge pops at the start because like she was treated as a star, and it was Brian Sunshine when it was really weird.
Yeah, and she turned it around, and they ended up telling the story that they wanted to tell, even though there'd sort of been no TV build up. I just thought that match was incredible, and ties in with the fact that she's the most underrated woman on the roster, because that for me wins match of the year. And also there is a little bit of I guess sort of nostalgia there. It adds a little bit more that there was a crowd there. But like I say, the crowd were just there to be like going crazy, excited, and for what was to come. They weren't there to watch these two necessarily. It was the buy match. It wasn't even on the main show. But but they turned. They got them invested, which for me was massive. I really enjoyed that match, so that gets it for me. And then on the men's side, I didn't do a Danielson match. I went for the other match that kind of stood out to me the most, which was Young Bucks versus Lucha's cage match. I just think that was incredible. Like it seemed to go so long. It had like so many crazy, incredible spots. Like they just did everything, and it was non-stop. Like from start to finish, it was a long match. I think it probably went like 25-30 minutes. The four of them just did not stop. They were flying around that ring, around that cage, really, and just did spectacular things. So I gave that my match of the year. Sorry to disappoint you, Jack.
Nothing wrong with that. Again, we're all different tastes. I agree with Lissy. For me, just for the atmosphere and the occasion, Kenny versus Dragon was just ridiculous. I remember I watched that in bed on the iPad, and I was like waking her up, making the noises. It was the when Dragon came down the ramp, and then there was a big schmoz on the ramp, like Kenny had killed him twice. 20,000 people there going bananas. They're going bananas. And that just edges out Danielson versus Hangman. And in the women's, I would go Shida Deeb 2, which I think was it the TBS title match, end of October on Dynamite. And I also give an honorable mention to Ruby Soho against Britt Baker, who main evented at Arthur Ashe Stadium. They were just let down by the crowd, were really, really tired by the end of that show. I think they taped Rampage beforehand, so they were really flagging. But it was really great. I think that's Ruby Soho's best match is arriving again, and it was another kind of feather in the cap to Britt, cementing her place as the role model in the women's division. So there you go. We don't really even need to do Wrestlers of the Year because it's obvious, right? I mean, Rob,
No, it's not obvious.
I mean, really? Okay, go on, Lissy. I mean, it's Bryan Danielson and Serena Deeb and distant second.
Okay, how about this? JJ, do you agree with Mr. Milner?
I have Bryan Danielson on the men's side. I have Bianca on the women's side.
I thought you'd have gone Sasha.
Okay, very good.
Surprised.
So I have Bianca on the women's side. Duh. And I actually have...
Oh, straight from a WWE writer's room. Duh.
Oh, what's it? And I actually have Kenny on the men's side.
I can see Kenny. Kenny's kind of been the forgotten face of AEW in 2021.
Kenny's still the man.
Now, if you ask Jim Cornette, he wrestles with young children and blow-up dolls. Fucking outlaw, mudlow, heck.
I think the fact that Kenny wrestled through vertigo and the shoulder injury, I think it was a shoulder injury he had, and like all of this stuff that he was going through, and he basically like carried the very top of that company until the likes of Bryan came in and Hangman came back, and everything else that happened. But yeah, for the first sort of 6, 7, 8 months of the year, he was phenomenal. And just never put a foot wrong. But the reason that I go with Bryan ahead of Kenny is like Kenny just didn't have enough matches for him to win it for me this year. And I know that is a factor because of the injuries and the stuff that he's suffering through. And he never put a foot wrong. But when you look at the fact that Bryan, he headlined WrestleMania this year, right? And did he, or he was in the title match?
No, he won. He's in the triple threat, right, with Edge.
It was the triple threat with Edge and Roman. That's the thing. I don't feel like that wasn't his match.
Sure, but okay, he was in it. He was in the main event at WrestleMania, and then he's had incredible title matches in AEW at the end of the year. You're hard pressed to find a match that was bad from him. The difference in character when he's come to AEW, in WWE he was always this underdog. He was the small guy. He's an underdog.
Yeah.
You look at him in AEW, he's an absolute killer. It's crazy, the complete character transformation. When he came in, he was a face, and within a couple of weeks, he already had the crowd booing him. He can just do everything on the mic, in the ring. There's just for me, he's not just the best wrestler of the year. He's the best wrestler in the world ever. He's the greatest we've ever seen. He can just do it all.
He's the greatest in-ring technician. Whether he's the greatest professional wrestler of all time, I'm not sure.
Pause. JJ, if you had to choose, is it going to be Bryan or is it Chad Gable?
I think it's going to be Bryan or your wife. Okay.
That would be a more difficult decision. Yeah. Bryan just edges Chad Gable. But, in terms of in-ring ability, Chad Gable's just a number 2 there. Just don't think we've seen enough of Chad on the mic. So
it's probably a testament to him as well that, again, I've loved Danielson 2005, 6, 7 Ring of Honor. You, JJ, got into him in 2011, 12, 13, 14?
I loved him from when I saw him on NXT against Chris Jericho. That was the first introduction that I've
You know what I mean? Those formative years where he's world champion of there, and then, again, we mentioned Ring of Honor in 2005, he's world champion. 17 years later, he's still performing at seemingly a new peak.
Yeah.
Which is...
He just gets better and better.
He's on his third career right now.
And
crazy.
to think a few years ago, well, more than a few years ago, quite a few years ago, we thought that he would never wrestle again. And then, he steps out in that check shirt, tells us that he's coming back. And No, wait, was the check shot the retirement one? I don't remember. I remember being emotional at both of them. And yeah, it's incredible that he's overcome all of these health problems, a year or more out of the ring, and like you say, hit a new peak, and now is the best wrestler in the world currently for me ever.
I'd probably take it back. It's difficult. Serena Deeb is probably the best women's wrestler in the industry. Whether she was wrestler of the year 2021, I think I may have to wave the white flag of that. Interesting. Neither of you even mentioned Becky or Charlotte once.
Yeah. So for me, like I went with Bianca. I didn't really say too much on this, but Becky was out of the WWE until August, right? So we only saw a third of the year with her. So that's why she doesn't factor. Charlotte, I can't really think of too much that she's done. Whereas you look at what Bianca's done, won the Royal Rumble, had the women's main event at WrestleMania, and even though she had the stupid way that she lost the title at SummerSlam, which isn't her fault, she still has maintained that spot at the top of the card, still has that star power, and has almost sort of overcome the bad booking that she's had to endure for the last 2 months of the year. So that's why she gets it for me.
You could probably say that about a lot of people.
You could, of course you could. Of course you could.
All right, then. Let's go now. Lissy's going full on UK mode today. You'd love to see it. Okay, I've got two more kind of categories, and that ties in with JJ.
Like this? I hate surprises.
But then you're going to go your gut instinct because you haven't prepared of it. So you mentioned there, Jay, that you had to compensate for bad booking. Biggest disappointment. So immediately, the two I think of, I was really looking forward to see what they do with Rhea Ripley last year. I'd watched bits of her in NXT. She looked like a badass. Like she's going to come up and just beat the shit out of all these ladies. And they put her as a baby face and team with a fake superhero. Like, okay.
Yeah, I can get on board with the Rhea one, because we had Bianca and Rhea as the last two in that Royal Rumble, and it was almost like when your two favorite teams are playing each other in football or something. I don't care who wins, they both made it to the final. One of them's going to be there at WrestleMania. I don't mind. And Rhea, when she first stepped up, I think it was her first match on the main roster at a Survivor Series, and she went toe to toe with Charlotte. I think that's right.
I remember watching it in the pandemic. I watched WrestleMania, and she had a great match with Charlotte where it was like a real struggle, and they'd mic'd it up really well. So, you can take that, you bang, bang. And I'm like, wow, this girl's really good. I've never watched NXT before, and she's very imposing, and you hear a lot about her, and then she's done nothing this year. I think she might have been tag champ for a few months, but again, what we said earlier, that doesn't really mean much.
Yeah, they've destroyed her. I think she's amazing, but they're just not giving her anything to work with. So yeah.
JJ, your biggest disappointment? You haven't mentioned Chad Gable. Is everything okay? Or
I mean, I don't understand why he's not.
Wait, wasn't he Shorty G at the start of the year?
He's starting. Go ahead, JJ. You don't understand why what?
I don't understand why. I don't understand why he's just in a tag team without it's just been shoved into that, when if you just gave him a run as a singles guy, he could easily smash it out of the park for the IC title, the US title, any of these things. And that's just me being genuine. I'm not going to sit here and say, he should be world champion or anything like that. But obviously,
I'd like TV champ. Oh,
he would be. Imagine him getting the US title and doing an open challenge, and they could just bring in anyone. They've kind of opened the forbidden door a little bit with Impact. Imagine some of the matches that he could have with some of the guys they have over there. Some of the NXT guys, like similar to what they've done in AEW with the TNT title, with the open challenge stuff with Sammy. Like, he's on that level. He's good enough. He's one of the best, purely in terms of in-ring guys that WWE have. And but I don't ever expect that he'll get to that level just because, for whatever reason, Vince isn't a fan of him. If he came to AEW, it's an incredibly bloated roster. I think that he would have opportunities to stand out, but yeah.
There was a great shout by Hamflet on the Raw review saying Gable to come across and form a tag team with Dragon called American Beta.
I'm a fan.
Yeah. Let's say, what's your biggest disappointment 2021 in wrestling, not life?
Well, there were.
What have you done, Jack?
The list is long. No, I'm kidding. No, I mean, I think you guys I'm gonna go with Chad Gable, but I think I think for me, like one of my most disappointing moments, we just talked about this a minute ago, was like how Bianca lost to Becky.
I love Becky as well. That was the shits.
No, and I love Becky. I do. I love Becky, but I think it did knock Bianca down for a little bit. And I think obviously her fans stayed with her, and she's overall amazing. She's great on the mic. She's great in the ring. She's a great ambassador to the company, everything, right? But I think, she definitely didn't deserve that, but I'm sure she's going to get it back. There's no doubt in my mind that she's going to get the title back. But yeah, I think Rhea Ripley definitely, like, she should be a killing machine right now. Right. Like she should be a killing machine. On the men's side, I mean, I'm kind of sad that the Dirty Dogs are still a tag team. Not tag team. They're even like in contention for like the belts all the time. It's like, again, I think overall my biggest disappointment is probably just the overall tag team division. I would like to see, obviously the New Day are amazing. The Usos are amazing. I would love to see some real tag teams come and challenge them.
Now that I've had a little bit of time to think, I would say biggest disappointment for me will be Big E.
They did him dirty.
Finally won the world title, and like it just was not like a memorable reign at all. And they still have a way to sort of fix this. I guess.
Rehabilitate him. Yeah, he needs to win the Rumble.
Guys, that happened on the 1st of Jan. So we're in 2022.
No, but the point is that like his title reign was not that inspiring, right?
He didn't book him as a strong champion. Look how Brock and Roman are booked. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And the last one
for me, because I'd waited a long time for Big E to get that spot, and I just don't think that they handled it the right way. It was almost like everyone wants you to have it. Here you go. It's similar to what they did with Kofi, right? Everyone's behind Kofi. Here you go. And then like once it was that moment, and then after that, nothing. And then, okay, Brock's here. See you later.
11 seconds was it as well? Yeah.
Yeah.
Debut on Fox. That was nice. Two kind of into one. You can interpret however you wish. Moment or shock of the year? Lissy, I'll let you lead.
Okay.
I need a minute.
I mean, for me, I don't know whether it's the end of All Out, where Adam Cole and Danielson both debuted, was genius booking. How you got the first one, oh my God, it's Adam Cole. Well, Dragon's not here then. Oh my God, Danielson's here. But Punk in Chicago, where he drops to his knees and like looks, it was, that was just wow. Something that you didn't think, a bit like you said, JJ, about never thought you'd see Danielson wrestle, let alone at this level. Punk back in any capacity, given how he talks about wrestling.
Yeah, for me, the moment of the year was Punk's return. Like, just nothing else tops that. It's been 7 years. The idea of him ever returning to a ring points in the last 7 years just seemed like it was never, ever going to happen. And I just thought it was perfect. There's not many things that I stay up until 4 a.m. to watch, being that I have 2 kids who typically are going to wake me up at about 7 in the morning.
You've got to time feeds right. You've got to time them right.
But yeah, I was up watching that and just like couldn't really get back to sleep afterwards because just buzzing off it. Like I thought the way that they handled it was perfect. Just like giving him that moment, that pop was insane, and then just like giving him the mic and run with it. And I just
take as long as you need. We'll format the show on the fly. Just do what you want.
I mean, honestly, if they had just had him out there for that whole hour and there were no other matches, I really wouldn't have minded. Like, and I don't think anyone else would have either, because everything that came after it, I don't even remember what the matches were. I don't think anyone does, but everyone watched it, and everyone was there for it. It was just huge, and I'm so happy he's back. He's not quite hit the heights yet that I expect him to over the next couple of years, but like even like just his mic stuff with MJF, and he's not quite there yet. It's still a little bit like really happy to be here, really happy to be back kind of thing, but he's already had some very, very good matches considering the fact that he was out for 7 years. And yeah, obviously he's almost untouchable on the mic. So
he
Yeah,
will
that was
have
the most-
he will have a
yeah.
dog collar match with MJF, and they will blow the roof off the place. The huge Piper fans. Punk has a history of dog collar matches with Ring of Honor. He had a great one with Raven. He had a great one with Jimmy Rave. Jimmy
They're
Rave.
building for
The story with Jimmy Rave is so disappointing in 2021. Did you see what happened to him?
Just the guy that lost his leg.
MRSA, yeah, he lost his legs, he lost his arm, and he committed suicide thereafter. Like,
Jesus.
that's,
very sad.
Sorry to bring it on a downer, but yeah, rest in peace, Jimmy Rave. He's a great wrestler.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Ooh.
Lissy,
I think for me, you guys positive spin on that. I don't usually like to focus on the negative, but I will just momentarily. I think biggest shocker of the year, it wasn't one moment, it was collectively the list of releases. I think we saw a lot of big names released, but then I think one loss is a game somewhere else, where I think it helps to redistribute the population of talent to other companies. So I think that's a good positive spin on it. I think in the spirit of talking about CM Punk, I love to see him on the mic, and I love to see him on commentary specifically. I think that's kind of like a dying art. I love to see, like how we always, we grew up on, Jerry Lawler and JR, like having that wrestler's perspective in the booth is nice, and I like having him there.
Yeah, I agree with that. Punk's great on the booth.
On the mic, in the ring, in the commentary booth.
No one could touch me. I remember doing that actually when I was running the betting shops, and I just felt doing that and be like, what is wrong with you? At this counter on that shop floor, no one could touch me. What are you doing? Judge, a prediction for 2022.
MJF world champion.
Really?
Will that do? Yeah. All right, cool.
And anything industry-wide?
Say again.
See, MLW is currently suing WWE. We've got an Impact wrestler about to show up at the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
Forbidden doors, trap doors open everywhere. Anything wider? Do you think that will happen in the professional wrestling industry? If I for one, I think another company will show up. There is that many free agents around at the minute. Jeff Jarrett has a history with this. He was let go by WWE last year. I think he'll start his own company.
I'd be surprised if it gets anywhere near the top two, or even the likes of Impact, or there's good companies.
It's a different model now. It's TV rights.
Yeah, I get it. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, Jonathan Gresham is like starting his own thing. They've got some big things happening over there. Now that you've got Fight TV, and pretty much wrestling fans have access to it. If you can get on there, you can get your show on, and if it's good enough, people will watch it. Any other predictions? I guess on the WWE side, I would fully expect WWE to release more people.
Really?
Yeah, I really think that there's a strong chance that they release some more.
Who are they going to release? The furniture? There's no one to release.
Release the hounds. All right, Mr. Burns, calm down.
No, I'm just kidding. That's life. Like, I think, okay, I'm not defending the release system.
That's business, baby. Business.
No. Right, it's business, right? But I'm looking at it, like I said, like if they're not using these people, I want to see those people being used somewhere else and being used in an effective way. Like I think Ruby Soho is a good story for that, where like, they weren't doing a lot with her and they let her go. And now look at her. She has like just elevated the talent in the women's pool in AEW. Like I'm excited to see her and Britt go. Like I want to see that. I like if you're not using somebody effectively, if they're not getting, you don't have TV time for everybody. You don't need hundreds of people. So I mean, it is for the best. And I think some people you're really good, especially this year when people's, when the time expires and they're able to be back on TV with another company, I'm excited to see that. I'd love to see, as my prediction, I'd love to see this. I'm so nostalgic. I'd love to see Impact, acquire some good people and actually like be that third contender for. So maybe stop shaking.
I just think perception is reality. They had their chance. They blew it. Wrestling fans don't give second chances.
I know. We're so fickle.
And you think the people out there, Jeff Hardy was a free agent. Keith Lee, Who else did they release?
Bray
Killer Cross, Scarlett. There's going to be think of the Ring of Honor guys. There's going to be a massive talent pool around if people can get their house in order. Like you said, JJ, there's Fight TV. You can sort your own streaming sites. There's merch. You can monetize it in so many different ways than say 20, 25 years ago, where you were relying on house shows and people buying tickets. That doesn't happen anymore. So it's going to be such a year of I don't know, for the people who are involved from the economics of it. It's going to be fascinating to follow. I do think AW will kind of consolidate now. I think you'll see a lot of releases from AW as well. I think a lot of the people who they hired when starting out the company, you know, the people like the Jack Evanses and Sonny Kiss and Joey Janela, Marco Stunt, they'll all be gone because they've.
But this is like the difference, right? They sign people on a 3-year contract and they let people have that 3-year contract, and then it comes to an end. Okay, we're not using you anymore. That's it, kind of thing. Like, thanks. And I'm sure if someone like a Jack Evans went to Tony Khan and said, "Look, I want to try and do other things elsewhere. I'm not being used. You're going to release me in 6 months anyway, I'm sure. So, you know, let me go." I'm sure, you know, Tony would let that happen. I think like the issue that you see with WWE is like people sign like a 5-year contract, you know, think that they've got that financial security. And if they want to leave in that 5 years, they're not going to be able to. But if at any point WWE says, done, don't, you know, budget cuts, and that's it, it's just gone kind of thing. It's just, for me, like these guys, you know, put their bodies on the line, put their lives on the line. You know, they're traveling around, they don't see their families too often. Like, they're doing this for our entertainment, and you would hope that they are compensated well for it and, you know, are in a work environment where they're happy and feel secure. And I just think in the WWE right now, it's not really the case, say for 5 or 6 people. I don't think that that's the case. No, I think that a lot of them will probably feel like they can just be cut at any time.
You said that they sign 3-year contracts, don't they? Well, you don't. You sign a 3-month contract because you can be given your 90 days at any moment, regardless of your position.
Right.
Such a, this Bray Wyatt, you mentioned Bray Wyatt's going to be free. Braun Strowman, Samoa Joe's just been released. William Regal, how?
Guys, no, I agree. Everyone's shocked at William Regal. We love him. We grew up on him. But no, JJ, like, but what you're saying, and I'm not advocating for people to just be released, but what I'm saying is if they're not being utilized, if they're not being happy, like your window in your wrestling life is not very long, right? Like you could get injured. Huh?
Unless you're Bryan Danielson.
Unless you're Bryan Danielson. But like you could get injured, like there's a lot of different factors, right? So I want to see people who are super talented being able to maximize on their youth and their abilities and the time that they have to be at the top of their game and to be able to build their brand, right? So, and it's comforting for a lot of wrestlers, I would think, right, that it's not just WWE anymore. I like to see a couple different companies. Like we grew up, well, yes, we're the same age. We grew up in a time where it was, you know, WWE, we had WCW, we had ECW. And then like, as we got older, you know, ROH came into the picture and, you know, then TNA and stuff. Like, I like to be able to have like a couple different flavors. Like there's a lot of things that I like about WWE that maybe AEW doesn't do and vice versa. So I think it's good that people are, if you're not using them, let them go make money somewhere else. Let them go have good matches somewhere else. The wrestling fans deserve that.
Something that we haven't seen before prior to the end of this year. Jeff Hardy first and then Tony Storm, both just leaving. You know, we're independent contractors. I don't like it here anymore. Bye. Do you think we'll see more of that next year? Or people utilizing that option? Like you said, JJ, it's good, very good that AEW, you signed a 3-year contract, we will honor the agreement. WWE's been a bit more cutthroat. They're a PLC. You know, they've got shareholders to appease. But because of that, Carlos, do you think we'll see more wrestlers going, I don't like working here. Bye.
But if they can, you know, I'm sure they will. But I think WWE wrestlers have had issues in the past where they've been waiting for them into their contracts, or they've asked to be released and they've been told no, or they've had
the big difference is they would have to hang around because you'd be waiting 3 months royalties wise from the last pay-per-view or from the last set of house shows. There's no more house shows anymore. There's no pay-per-views because you're on the network or it's streaming, or they're getting money from the TV companies. So the business model has changed.
They're doing house shows now, Jack.
Yeah,
They're
they're
doing
working
house
house shows, but sorry, in terms of like the reliance on them, they'll do 3-4 days a week as opposed to, you're out there making up the towns. The business model has changed with the WWE, where the percentage of money that trickles down to the wrestlers is much on a much lesser scale. So you don't have to hang around and, you'd be thinking like, us in our working environment, if we're planning on leaving, well, a bonus is due at the end of February, so I'm going to hang on a bit now. If that is happening less and less, you think, fuck this, I'm off. I just think it's just fascinating for me to watch what's going to happen because, again, with the moving parts and the forbidden doors, and MLW is suing WWE as of yesterday for
I saw that.
sabotaging their business. And, apparently they had a deal with Vice and WWE cancelled it, and they're going to the Competition Commission, showing that this is repeated actions by WWE to, stop competition within the industry. It's fascinating, the state of the industry. That's all. I'm sure there'll be plenty more for us to talk about throughout the year, and then who knows who we'll be putting up for the in the categories next year. Actually, yeah, give us a few predictions for some of these categories next year, Lissy.
Oh, wow, that's a
JJ. What do you reckon? MJF Hangman All Out match for the year. MJF wins the belt.
Match of the year. I'll probably give it to a Bryan Danielson one next year. And not be so concerned. I'm sure Bryan will win Wrestler of the Year again. Not win it, but it just will be. And hard to think of like who's going to be Rookie of the Year. I could see Wardlow be like have a massive year. I think good things are going to happen for him. So yeah, we'll see. I'd be interested to know like what other people think of our picks. Anyone that's watching us on YouTube, like let us know what you guys think of my love of Chad Gable and all the other picks.
It's getting a little aggressive, but it's too early in the day. There's not enough gin for you to go off.
Exactly.
Yeah, we missed JJ, the gin-filled JJ. That was a good
Gin
time.
JJ is the best JJ.
JJ, what are your thoughts for Jay Lethal in 2022?
Doesn't have a match on TV. Has some wrestling matches on Dark. No one really talks about him again. That's what I see for him in the future. He's never going to win a title there, is he? I mean, God.
Big year for Taz. Big year for Team Taz, and ultimately, as long as we send Hook, we'll all be happy. We'll all be happy.
I want to see Hook have a big year. I already said this, but I want to see Hook have a big year. If anybody that didn't make this list for me, this go round, I definitely want to see him as at least Rookie of the Year for 2022, because I think he could still be in that category at that time.
Yeah.
Hook being a super babyface, I want to see CM Punk turn heel and beat the shit out of Hook and set up something very special.
Oh, wow.
I think Punk will turn heel either towards the end of this year or start of next, and it will be phenomenal.
Yeah, he doesn't have a character yet. He's kind of just like he's just kind of freelancing right now. So I want to see, like, I love Punk as a heel. I think he does his best work as a heel because he folds in his, if he gets on there and starts talking straight edge and just like puts everything else down, like I mean that rocks it for me. So I'd love to see him become his monster heel. I want to continue to see Bryan as a heel too, because I think he's on a really good run. He can go this way for the rest of the year for me.
He can do what he wants. He's Bryan Goddamn Danielson. Which is basically that's the only thing to sum it up. I've been Jack Milner. Lissy, it's been a pleasure as always, John. Hopefully we will have a few of these right, and then we will reconvene in 12 months' time and see just how many we actually got wrong. So pleasure as always, gents and lady, and we'll speak to you soon looking at the 1992 Royal Rumble with a tear in my eye. This is the greatest moment of my life. See you all shortly.